This is murdered in Windsor. That's my real name, and the name I was given when I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in '41 is Peggy Ann Dempsey Meredith Childers. I was kidnapped by my own Uncle George, who became the illegal George VI. He's the father of Elizabeth, who's illegal, and she's a member of the New World Order, along with where Obama is now in the Netherlands. Queen Beatrix, she's a part of the New World Order, and Charles and Elizabeth. And these are my relatives. And Elizabeth is illegal, so was her father. She was here with Roosevelt, who appointed Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy, as ambassador to England 36 to 46. And JFK and the older son, Joseph, flew in and out there at the time I was kidnapped and brought to Moulton, Alabama. So they were part of the kidnapping, Rothschilds. Now I want to get back to, I was reading about Ennis being shot, Bill Cosby's. And by the way, the connection there, too, is Ennis is the name of the probation officer that was assigned to Larry Flint. He wrote the parody about Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg next door here, and he was hauled into court. And this was after I was out there during the campaign, and he was going to help me, and he was shot. The guy was programmed to shoot him in Lawrenceville, Georgia, while I was doing the book in Marietta, about 45 miles away. But anyway, I saw the galley proofs when I was out at his home in Bel Air in October of '83. Larry McDonald, the Dr. Congressman I said in the prior tape, the plane went down carrying him and all aboard. It was the KAL that veered into Soviet airspace, and the Soviets shot it down August the 31st of '83. So then Ennis was his probation officer, Larry Flint's probation officer. You get in trouble if you tell the truth. And he told the truth about the Bloomingdales, a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, Ennis was his probation officer assigned to him here in Roanoke. I never thought that I'd end up living on the Appalachian Trail, freezing, starving, begging here in Roanoke. And by the way, next door in Charlottesville is where Anastasia was murdered by Blue Ridge Mental Health, May the 4th of '84. Tsar Nicholas, his family, it was orchestrated, his murder, by the New World Order, who's kidnapped me, took out my father, and Elizabeth and her father, and evidently Beatrix, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. They're part of the New World Order, so they turned on their own family and country. So I wanted to go back to Ennis because they had me running up and down the Appalachian Trail, begging, side of the road, freezing, starving, hot sun, and they used to joke, because this has been joked to everybody, when I would tell them my name, and the Brits were on the trail too, and the Germans, so everybody knew it was true. They thought the people here think it's funny that they kidnapped me and did all this to me. But, so I was locked up for, quote, living in using the national forest for residential purposes. So you don't see any background on this. I'm hauled in, handcuffed more than once. They even did these patterns the last time. That was about the time this happened. Channel 7, all of them covered it, but they won't tell you 1 ounce of the truth. But anyway, I was brought in, before then, I was brought in and I had to pay a fine. And I'm walking and all this. And the federal judge told Ennis, same probation officer, and there's a connection to this. I'd been out at Flint's, et cetera, and Ennis was his probation officer, and here I am in the same court for living in the forest. So you don't get any background why I'm there or anything. So Ennis, the same guy that was probation officer to Flint when he was here in the Falwell trial, the judge, I think his name was Conway. I think it was, and that gets into a whole wow. But he's a federal judge. He told Ennis, he said, you find her a place to live. So it's all a joke anyway. This is in the hot sun that I have to end up walking again with nothing, nowhere to go, just go. But I went up to in the federal building from the court to Ennis's office, and he told me to sit on a whoopee cushion. So you know what that sounds like. Just like all this is one big joke. So I sit there, and he's on the phone. He goes through about a list of I don't know how many Salvation Army, Rescue Mission, you name it. Nobody, he can't find me a place to live. I'm this low-life creature that can't get a place to live. Nobody will let me live there or stay or help me. So I end up on the road, and I end up in Whitful, and I've walked and begged, and I fell down in the hot sun. By the way, when I stayed one night, I've forgotten where, but I ended up in Whitful, and a ticket was bought for me. Now, they wouldn't pay for me a place to live, but they bought me a ticket to Montreal, Canada. Well, I'm British. I'm Victoria II, kidnapped. This is my father again. This is the double that was used. It's Mary Simpson, and my mother is Claudia O'Keefe, sister to Georgia, the artist. So they buy me a ticket to Montreal, Canada, and Canada was part of the British Commonwealth, still is, I hope. But I got turned back at the border. They said, well, how are you going to live when you get up there? I thought, well, I can't live here. But anyway, I was turned around, ended up in Albany, and I'm leaving out all the horrors in this there. But, well, really, there's not much to say there, other than it's the timing. The Bill Shatner Star Trek, and I'm going to forget the man's name, and I shouldn't, oh God, what's his name? Was producer and writer of, started Star Trek. Anyway, he died en route up there in October from Whitful to Montreal, and I was turned around. I can't think of his name, my goodness. But anyway, that was one that was involved, the Ennis. And O.J. Simpson, get into that because the chase involved, was filmed on that same highway where Ennis Cosby was shot. And O.J. Simpson, of course, Simpson was supposed to, the name of the woman, that history would tell you married my father, and it's a lie. She married an imposter. And I worked for the district attorney, Simpson, in Huntsville in 80, and the next job I had was for Doyle Duke, as if the Duke of Windsor was supposed to marry Wallace Simpson. So it's clues to my identity, and I found out in 83 my real name and identity, Victoria II. And my father was a great man. He's been so defamed. And my mom, nobody knows who she is other than the sister of Georgia O'Keefe, which is great. Georgia's a great woman. They are. Anyway, this is my dad again, and this is going to go off. It's the timing. Vic Morrow was another one that was killed using mind control. He was in a helicopter crash. And I don't know, maybe I'm leaving out something else. I said O.J. Simpson. And the murder of Nicole Brown and Goldman. Well, he didn't get, these are mind control, O.J. and the one that shot Ennis, etc., just like these are. The Century with James Holmes, the theater in Aurora, Colorado. These are mind control. This is next door to me. This is a psychiatrist that finished at Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. He's a shooter in Fort Hood, and he's programmed, and he's a psychiatrist. He doesn't know he was programmed, I can tell you that. And this is, of course, Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bombing, and this is, oddly enough, William. And they're talking about they put a chip in him in case he was kidnapped, and I thought, well, his grandparents and his mom sure knows it, helped kidnap me. I guess that's a good idea. He's a fraud, but hey, let's save him.